But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the half. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and master swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Ultimate Swimmer, and I am very excited about today's guest. She's an Olympic gold medalist and bronze medalist from Rio 2016. She's one of the fastest breaststrokers in history, and she graduated from Columbia Law School, Ivy League. Whoa. And then she just graduated law school, Georgetown, even cooler. And she's got one of the best smiles in all of swimming. And the coolest thing, she's from Texas, like me. So please welcome a true ultimate swimmer, Meili. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Yay, thank you, Josh. I'm so happy to be here. It's such a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all true. Well, I love your career, and I love your spirit, and I love your stories. And so I'm so glad we get to share those stories with the listeners today. And I wonder if you can just take us back to life growing up in North Texas and anything significant your coaches and parents did for you that really made a difference to help set you on your trajectory as a swimmer and a person.
Sure. It's so funny going back, and it's a great question. And, you know, we could probably spend a full hour talking about my life as a youngster and an age group swimmer. But one story I'll tell that's special to me is when I first started swimming, my sister and I both used to do gymnastics, and I loved gymnastics. She loved gymnastics, but she hurt herself. She broke her ankle, like doing something on the trampoline. And after her surgery and after she healed, the doctor recommended that she do swimming for rehab. And you know, we loved the pool, we loved swim lessons, but we never really knew like what a swim team was or what the options were. So my mom kind of just signed us up for the local summer league swim team at our local neighborhood pool. And we had no idea what we were getting into. And so I was 8 when I showed up. I was 8 years old. I had, the coach was like, okay, do a 200 freestyle. And I was like, what is 200? Like, what are you talking about? And it was pretty traumatic for me because you know how summer league is. I got in behind like 30 other people in a lane, and it's just chaos. And the coaches are like young teenagers that are also the lifeguards, and it was just very confusing. So I really struggled that first practice. I ended up getting out and hiding in the locker room until my mom came and picked us up. And I looked at her and I was like, this is a little bit too hard for me, so I think I'm going to quit. And she looked me in the eyes, and I'll never forget it. She said, Katie, we don't quit when things get hard. So you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to try again. And if at the end of the summer you still don't enjoy it, then we can talk about doing a different sport. But you have to see this through. You can't just walk away because you say it's hard. And that was a good lesson. I mean, I was really frustrated at the time, but I think that was probably one of my, the biggest lessons and first biggest lessons that swimming taught me was that it is hard, but you can't just stop doing something because it's challenging. So I went back the next day. We had our first, swim meet that weekend. Summer League, you're doing little meets all the time. And I was swimming the 50 freestyle. And I remember I dove in, I swam halfway freestyle. I think I doggy paddled to the 25 and I just got out. And my coach came over and she was like, you have to go back. It's a 50. And I was like, yeah, I know. Not for me. I'm pretty tired. And so the first meet didn't go very well, but keep in mind, I think I had only swum for 3 days at that point. And then fast forward one more week. So, I go through another practice and I'm starting to get to know people and starting to make friends and everything's kind of settling down. And one more weekend, the second meet, I see for the first time everyone walking around with all the ribbons, all the pretty colored ribbons. And I really wanted one. And so I asked my coach, how do I get a ribbon? And I remember my sister was standing right there. She's 5 years older. And she looked at me and she was like, you're not going to get a ribbon. You didn't even finish your race last weekend. Like, why do you think you're all of a sudden going to be one of the fastest people here? And my coach just said, Katie, all you have to do is beat the people next to you. And that was a light bulb moment because I've always been very competitive, but I didn't really understand that it was a race or that it was a competition. I think I was just more traumatized by the sheer number of people, the chaos of the Summer League swim meet. And I was like, oh, that's it? And she was like, yes, that's it. And I was like, oh, easy. And my sister, was like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. So I swam. It was the 25 backstroke. I learned to stay away from 50. So went down to 25, but swam the 25 backstroke and I got 4th place and I got a yellow ribbon and I still have it. Yeah, it's hanging. It's hanging in my mom's house, in my bedroom, in my parents' house. And that was a big lesson because it was the first time that I learned, you want something, you figure out how to do it, you kind of make a plan. Obviously, this was all very small scale, but I sort of made a plan. I figured out what I needed to do, and then I did it, and then it felt really good. And so that was kind of, I think, my hook, right? That's what kept bringing me back. And pretty much from that moment forward, it became a big passion. I loved it, loved going to practice, loved setting goals, loved achieving them. So it just it set me up well. So I learned it early, but I guess the hard way, but it was a good lesson to have gotten under my belt.
Yeah, I love that story because at a Summer League meet or any meet, there's hundreds of people around. But if you just focus on that one person next to you, just one little goal, one little thing, it makes it not so intimidating. And you can just start inching away on these little realistic goals. I love that. Well, when was your transition to a big club team?
It came really quickly. So I think at the end of that summer, I remember being like, I don't want to stop. And so we kind of, my Summer League coach was also the club coach at Marsh, which still exists today. It's still a great team. And so I think I just transitioned right over to year-round swimming. And I did gymnastics for a little while after, but then I remember practices were at the same time. And I was kind of seeing which one I'd rather do. Looking back, I chose gymnastics. Gymnastics is pretty cool. But I really loved swimming. I loved being in the water. I loved my friends. So I made that transition, and then it kind of just went off from there. And, I wasn't an all-star age group swimmer. I made tags, which is our big age group meet entrances, but I wasn't winning tags. I was kind of just average. I think when I was maybe around 12, 13-ish, I realized I'm actually pretty good at this because I started beating people in the groups, the age group ahead of me and the senior group. We would have these inter squad meets and I would win events. And that's also, I think, the same time I realized I was good at breaststroke. So it was something that happened early, and then I think I just had a very steady career as a young swimmer. I wasn't blowing it out of the water. I wasn't, nobody would have ever expected me to go to the Olympics. But I slowly and steadily increased the way that the sports, you're kind of designed to in the sport, just by getting the next cut and then the next cut. And up until the time I was in high school, I I don't like to say I was like average, because I do think I was good. I was, going to nationals and finally into juniors, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the next breaststroke, this is the next thing. But I just loved it. I mean, I loved swimming. I loved racing. I loved being around my friends. And you asked what's something my parents did well. I think my parents sort of let me drive it. They were never forcing me or putting pressure on me or sort of making me do things. And one thing that my mom did early that was really powerful was she would never wake me up to go to morning practice. If I wanted to go, I had to get myself up and then wake her up.
Right.
And she would set an alarm, but it was kind of like, if you want to do this, I'm happy to drive you. But if you don't want to go, I'm not forcing you. And if you don't want to wake up, I'm not going to get you out of bed. So that was something that I think, both my parents were just very supportive. They let the coaches coach, and they were there to be supportive parents. And they were there to take me anywhere I needed to go and do anything I needed to do, but it had to come from me. Very, passionate about that.
That's a good balance. My parents did the same thing. They kind of let me drive it, and they were right there supporting, driving, paying.
Literally driving everywhere.
Yes. But if you're going to go to the next level, you got to want it. The parent can't want it more than the kid. The kid got to want it to go to the next level. And I love that. Any epic moments in high school? Because now you went to a private school. Did your private school have a swim team, or did you just do all club?
Yeah. So I went to Nolan Catholic High School in Fort Worth, and we did have a team. But for those of you that are familiar with Texas high school swimming, the public UIL is kind of like very competitive. It's sort of, the end all be all. And then private school swimming is the opposite. And I know in some states it's like flipped a little bit. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, we had a swim team, not super competitive, but I did swim, and I liked swimming. It was more of it was like a fun, different experience. And I got to do it with my high school friends, and, the meets are different and the structure is a little different. So it was an opportunity to sort of take a step back and appreciate the fun part of the sport. Yeah. But yeah, I think all of my sort of competitive side of the sport came through club. And in terms of epic moments, one moment that sticks out is in 2009 was the first time I put on a tech suit. And I swam at a meet in Austin. It must have been like one of the senior circuits or like a sectionals. And I dropped like 6 seconds in the 200 breaststroke, and I got my world championship trials cut. And it like out of nowhere. And everybody at the meet was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my gosh. And that was probably one of my first like breakthroughs. And that was the summer before my first year of college. So it kind of came at the end of like like I had already committed to Columbia. I was like getting ready to go, and I was just sort of swimming that summer to stay in shape, I think, as a lot of people do when they're transitioning from high school to college. And I just had a great summer. I went to world championship trials, and I got last. It's another story I talk about. I tend to lose a lot more races than won, but that was like a big breakthrough, I think, in the overarching career. And it kind of set me up going into college as like, oh, I can compete like at the highest levels of this sport. I mean, obviously not winning or like, compete very well, but I'm capable of being at this level. And that was a good mindset, because I think a lot of times when swimmers go into college, they start thinking, okay, like these are my last 4 years and I'm going to transition to something else after. And, they start filling up their time with internships and intense classes, which is all great. But, for me, it sort of kept that fire going. Like I was still improving, and I still had the ability and the excitement of achieving big goals.
Yeah. And your Columbia coach was ecstatic.
Yes. Yeah. She was like, oh my gosh.
Take us back real quick. You didn't go a traditional big D1 thing. You chose Ivy League, and Columbia in particular, in the middle of New York. I mean, it's kind of different, but tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So it's funny because in Texas, it's very common to stay in Texas, and nothing against Texas schools. I love them all, but and my sister went to A&M. Yep. I just didn't want to go to a huge school, and I especially was hesitant to go to a school where the priority would be swimming over swimming over academics. And,
Right.
I don't know if that would have been the case. Obviously, they're all great schools, and I know, you can get a great education anywhere if you're willing to seek it out. But I had always loved school. When I was looking at colleges, academics was sort of driving my decision, and I wanted to find a place where that would be, equally as important to swimming, if not more important. And then I would find so that was like my first filter, as you will, on looking at all of the schools. And my second filter was, okay, and when I find that, where will swimming fit in? And so, there's absolutely no problem doing it the other way around. And I always tell people if you want to swim in college, there's a place for you to do so. And there's lots of different paths, and there's a lot of different types of programs. So it's, you can definitely find one that suits what you want and what you need. But I knew very much that I wanted to go to a small school in a really big city, and I wanted to be away from Texas. So that's, that was the main driving decision. And then when I had the opportunity to go to Columbia, it was I was obsessed with that school from, even from a younger age, when I was just kind of going to tour schools and look at them. And when I met the team and the coach and sort of got a feel for the swim team, I was just like, yes, this is it. I know in my heart of hearts, this is where I will be the happiest. And it was true. And so while I didn't do I didn't go to a big swimming school, and I didn't go to a super competitive conference, I think that was the best decision for me, because I was so happy, and I just really appreciated everything I had. And, I think to become a great swimmer, or to become a good swimmer, you have to just really enjoy what you're doing and where you're at and who you're with. Yeah. It's really hard to get great at something if you're miserable. So it was the right choice for me. And I think it set me up very well for my career moving forward.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you didn't compromise your academic goals, and you searched and found the right one for you. I love that. Did you ever meet Christina Toyscher?
Yes. Yeah. I love Christina. She, okay. So when I first went to the Columbia pool, I looked at the record board, obviously, and she has half,
Yes.
A little less now after me. No, I'm just kidding. But I never got to her 200 free, 400 IM situation. But, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then obviously learned more about her. And she was actually coaching at Yale my freshman year at Columbia. So I got to meet her at meets, and then, at Ivies, and then we've stayed close, and we've done a few things together. We're actually doing something together for Columbia next week, in a run up to the Olympics. So she's amazing. Yeah.
So she and I were on the 96 team together, and she's just so wonderful. So that's cool. So you get to Columbia, any fun, cool moments in your collegiate career?
Oh,
any big rivalries? Who was your big rivalry in the Ivy League, or any big NCAA moments?
Yeah, it's so funny what we talk. So in the Ivy League, everybody kind of knows that Harvard and Princeton are the dominant two schools, and they always get first or second. Yale usually gets third, or Yale's gotten very good. Jim Henry's there now, so he's done a great job. But it kind of fluctuates between the three of them. So for us, we just were we want to be, right, as a team, competitive. We don't want to be the other five schools. There's the three schools and the other five schools. We're we don't want to be those. So we worked really hard at that team goal. And I think we got third my junior year at Ivies, which was a very, very big achievement for Columbia, and super exciting. And I think we sort of did rise the level of, of the team's reputation. But it's funny because rivalries in the Ivy League don't exist. Everyone's just happy to be there. I mean, I'm sure, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton would say something different, and especially when we ended up going to NCAAs, we were because, there were so few people from each school that would go, we would all sit together. We became our little team, our conference. So we were all really close. The coaches in the Ivy League, I'm pretty close to all of them still. I could reach out to any of them. And so it's just it's a close-knit family. I think because it's a different experience, right, than going to a bigger conference. And so you kind of have that shared bond. And so I think less rivalry, more support. But my biggest college moments. My freshman year of college, I did well. I think I went best times, but I didn't again, I wasn't blowing it out of the water. I wasn't making headlines. I don't even think I won an event at Ivy's my freshman year, but I was loving life. So I was, socializing a lot, staying up late a lot. And my coaches will tell you, it took me a little while to get focused, mainly because I'm at school in New York City and I'm away from my parents and this is so exciting and fun. But my sophomore year, I came back and, we have goal meetings at the beginning of every year. And my coaches were kind of okay, Katie, we think we think this is your potential. We think this is where you could go. But if you continue to sort of treat it how you're treating it, you won't get there. So if you want to focus in on this, we think you can achieve some pretty big goals here. Yeah. And I kind of agreed with them in the sense of I think you're right. I kind of feel that potential. And so my sophomore year, I started really focusing in and sort of putting swimming first. And I got really focused in the weight room and, put a lot of emphasis on getting stronger and then just taking care of myself, right? So eating better and getting more sleep and just being more present and aware and eager in the pool. So my practices got harder, but also I just, I gave it a little bit more commitment. And I think my sophomore year is when I started really improving. And then my junior year, when I came back, my junior year was the first year I made NCAAs, which is it still is, it's crazy. I didn't even make the meet until my junior year of college. And I ended up getting 5th that year. So I went from not making it to being an All-American. Yeah. And which was a pretty big jump. And, people were like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? And it really was just coming back, realizing, this is actually what I want. I do want to be great. I want to be really good at this. Again, underlying my whole career was just this love for the sport. So I was always happy to go to practice. I was always happy to sort of, goal set and achieve them. And so with that driving me, I was I want to see how good I can get. And so I just started taking it more seriously. I started setting bigger and, scarier goals for myself. I think between my sophomore and junior year was the first time I sort of set the goal to make NCAAs. Before that, I called them comfortable goals. I was I want to win Ivies in a couple of events. And there was this really great sports psychologist at Columbia that looked at me and was what are you doing? Start, dream bigger. And you need to, I'm type A and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so I would set goals that I knew I could achieve because I hated failing. So I was always kind of limiting myself to protect myself from that, uncomfortable feeling of saying oh, I'm going to go get that and then not getting it. And so I just wasn't pushing myself and, a great effort. And, I'm so thankful for my college coaches who really pushed me and they were stop setting goals, you can achieve and start setting ones that you don't think you can, because that's how you're going to push yourself outside your comfort zone. And that's how you're going to get much better. So that's what I did. And then, my senior year, I came back and I ended up getting 3rd at NCAAs and sort of, I think I finaled in all 3 of my events and just sort of a magical career of going from this no name to, finishing top 8 at NCAAs and then deciding, okay, I'm going to continue on and I'm going to, try and pursue this, professionally and see what I can do in the big pool and with long course, which was a scary decision, but my college career sort of like my high school career, right? A breakthrough at the end, this breakthrough at the end of my college career kind of opened my eyes to okay, you can do this, you're capable and you have the ability to be one of the best.
So what was your spring of your senior year? What year was that? Was that
2013?
13. So then where did you go after you were done? Did you go straight to Charlotte or did you go somewhere else in between?
Yep, I went straight to Charlotte. So I graduated in May and I moved to Charlotte in June, so the next month, and started swimming with David Marsh and Team Elite. And it was overwhelming, to say the least. But, and so
totally different, overwhelming in the sense of there's only a few of you, but it's totally different program.
totally different program. David is a very tough coach and a great coach, but he's very blunt. He's very honest. And he was sort of like, what are you doing here? Like, who are you? And what are you doing here? It's funny, I tell the story. So I had, obviously I talked to him before I just showed up on his team. Yeah. But for those of you who don't know David Marsh very well, he's a little bit scatterbrained sometimes. And I think he had forgotten that he met with me. And so I showed up and he literally looked at me and was like, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? And he was like, okay, get in. And so I just, got in, and it took a while to build up it took a long time for us to build up a great working relationship, but to make it a little bit extreme, I think it took him a while to notice me. And so they were getting ready for Worlds that summer, 2013 Worlds. That's right. And so he was kind of in and out anyways. And I came at the end of a summer. So it was a little bit of a weird transition. So really I started working like full time. So the summer of 2014 to the summer of 2015 was my first full year in Charlotte. Right. And I just, that's when I went from being like not world ranked to being ranked first in the world at the end of 2015, which was insane. But it was just a tough road. I mean, David, to his credit, I think saw potential in me, but knew because I was coming from this different background and that I didn't sort of have the experience at, the national or international stage, that I needed a lot of tough love to be able to handle the pressure of it. So, right. Wow. And he knew I was on an accelerated timeline. So he was kind of like, if you're going to get to where you are today, to standing on the podium in 2016, you have a lot to learn. And it's, and I mean, physically, yes, but just sort of mentally. And it all started, like, I didn't even really believe in myself. Like, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't feel like I deserved it. I had a lot of confidence issues because I had never been there and I had never competed with these people. And I'd kind of always been in like, the big fish in the little pond, and now I'm the little fish in the big pond. And that was really hard. So he was very tough on me and just very honest. I mean, multiple times he would say like, that's not good enough. You're not good enough. I remember like I would do these amazing things and practices for me, like that I had never done before. And it wouldn't even be like worth him saying good job. Like it was just, that was like the expectation. So for him, he was like, why would I tell you good job when you just did something that you need to do to accomplish the goals you've set for yourself? So that was tough, but then there were a lot of tears on my part, but it worked. And his plan and sort of his goal for me, it worked. So I do give him a lot of credit. Yeah.
Because by August 2015 in San Antonio, your big breakthrough meet, you're like, okay, this is good. It's working. Right.
Yeah. So it paid off, but it was, and so I tell, young swimmers, your coaches have to be hard on you because we're human, right? And so our bodies protect us and our brains protect us, and you can, and yes, you can do hard things, but at the end of the day, it's going to be really hard for you personally to push yourself to a level that you need to get to, because it's just uncomfortable. So you have to have sort of someone else helping you get there, because there's only so far you can go. It's so important to have a coach that's willing to, not say, oh, okay, like you're tired. Yes. Like you can relax, right? Or like you have to have someone that says, no, this is what you're capable of. And I know you can do it, and keep going. So that, that voice, while great swimmers are really good at pushing themselves, there's always that internal voice telling you, okay, slow down. Okay. Take a break. Okay. Like maybe we don't need to go to practice today. So as long as you have your internal voice combating that and your, the external voice from your coach pushing you really hard, I think that's how you get there.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a relationship. The more you fail in practice, the less you fail in public.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And
I failed a lot in practice.
And when I heard Katie Ledecky's old high school coach, Bruce Gimmel, speak, he was like, she fails all the time. I was like, well, that's good news, because you think she's, a cyborg. But in practice, she fails all the time, which is great. Because that's what happens to normal people.
Right.
And
Oh, and one thing David was great at was designing sets that were designed for us to fail without us knowing it at the beginning. And I think a lot of great coaches do that. And I'm sure Bruce does that with Katie. And just sort of getting to your point and then, forcing yourself to go through it and fail and feel what that feels like, but still continue to try and find other little things to do right, so that when you're in a race at the end and you are failing, you know what to do and you have the tools to be able to deal with it and, still finish strong.
Yeah. The quote I give my college swimmers is, let's die together in private so we don't die in public.
Yes, I love that one.
Like, it's okay to risk in practice on a daily. So let's die in private so we don't die in public at the championship moment. Like you said, because you know how to go through that uncomfortableness.
I wanted to take a moment from this fascinating interview to let you know about a new partner for the Ultimate Swimmer podcast, and that is SwimShare. SwimShare is a free workout writing tool. Just Google SwimShare, all one word, SwimShare. And you can put in today's workout in just a few clicks, and it sends and stores all your workouts within seconds. The first workout you'll see on there is one of my favorites from yours truly. Check out SwimShare and take your workouts to the next level. Send, store, and share your swimming masterpieces with SwimShare.
Well, 2015 was a big breakthrough summer, and you kind of went from strength to strength. You had a great, was at Pan Am's a month later, and you win the gold there, and that was fun. In December 2015, you helped be a part of a world record medley relay at the Duel in the Pool in Indy. So that was a good semester from August to December.
I forgot about Duel in the Pool. Yeah, that was such a fun meet.
Yeah, I was there in the stands cheering.
Yeah,
that was the last Mutual of Omaha Duel in the Pool, and I was there going nuts. And that was a good meet for the 2016 year. And so you kind of had you kind of knew you were on track for good things going into the trials, but how did you manage all the stuff? Because here we are, we're 2 weeks from 2021 trials as we're recording this. And so, all the swimmers, the thoughts are flying. Can I do this? Have I done enough? All the worries, all the doubts, all the negatives. And of course we battle it with positives. What was your mindset going into the trials? How did you succeed? And what did you do well? And what would you, if anything, what did you do not do well?
It's funny. I think about 2 weeks out and I start getting stressed and I tell myself no, Katie, you're not swimming in this one. So you don't have to stress about it. But
That's right.
My heart rate starts going up. Yeah, it was a lot. And I think every swimmer knows that trials is a lot. And even the Katie Ledeckis and Michael Phelps of the world will still say it's an intense meet because you're not only dealing with your emotions, but you're dealing with some of your best friends and your teammates, right? And you see a teammate make the team and you see a teammate miss the team. And there's just it's a roller coaster of emotions and there's a lot going on. So in the same moment, you're seeing dreams come true and dreams shattered all at once. And that's a lot for anybody to sort of be around and, you kind of consume that energy. But going into 2016, I think David did a great job with our group of sort of placing the goal on the game. So yes, we had to make it, but our goals were always to be on the podium at the game. So
wow,
I think that took some of the stress. And, looking back on it now, I can say, I'm sure then I was very stressed and very scared and, a lot of pressure on trials, but he just did a great job of us all believing we are all capable of making this team. So we weren't every day. It wasn't am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? It was more when I make it, what am I going to do then? Yeah. And so I think that was a great way to sort of frame it for us. But that being said, you get to the meet and you're am I going to make it? It's no easy task. And especially in competitive events, the 100 breaststroke was very competitive that year. Right? I could make this team. I knew I could have my best swim ever and I could still miss the team, which was, how great the event was. And so I kind of had to come to terms with that and tell myself, you can go a best time, you can, swim your fastest ever, and you might come in third or fourth and, or fifth, right? It's just So you kind of have to realize that before you start thinking it, because and that's at least how I processed it, because it's just too much, right? It's too overwhelming to sort of think,
Yeah,
I can do everything right. I can swim my best swim in my whole life and still not achieve this goal. So that's how I was sort of approaching it in the weeks leading up. And then when I got to the meet, it was tough for me. I was very nervous. I was like nervous sick. I couldn't eat. I wasn't sleeping. I was like dizzy. Like it really felt like I had the flu. I didn't have the flu. I was just like overcome with nerves. But it was a scary 2 days. And I remember after the semifinal swim, going up into the stands to see my parents, and my mom, she didn't tell me this until after I made it, but she was like, you scared me so much because you were as white as a ghost. Like she was like, you were not yourself. Like, and I wasn't. I was just very overwhelmed. And I had a fine prelim swim, a fine semi swim. I was like set up well. I was swimming fine, but it's just the idea of like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make it? And so the night of my final swim, I remember walking to the pool and kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to go swim this 100 breaststroke, and either I'm going to make this team or I'm not. And if I make it, amazing. But if I don't, okay, right? Like my parents are still going to love me. My coaches are still going to be proud of me. I've still come on this huge journey, right? Like I've still come from like a no name or a nobody, and I've improved so much, and I've gotten to do so like this, I had traveled the world and I had met all these people. And so it was like, even if you don't make it, like none of those experiences go away. And you should still only be proud of yourself for everything you've accomplished. So that gave me a little bit of peace, right? Like no matter what happens, I'm still who I am. I'm still loved. I still have this wonderful, amazing life and this crazy, this great journey, and it's okay. And I mean, I was still terrified, but it just sort of, put it all in perspective. And I think that gets lost a little bit at trials. Like the people that finish maybe 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th, like walk away a little bit disappointed. And it's tough because it's like, that is such an incredible accomplishment. Like you are, right? Like even anyone that competes at trials, like what an incredible accomplishment. It's important to sort of take a step back and look at it from that perspective, I think, as well. But in terms of like the race, I literally don't remember a thing. I remember the ready room being very quiet, which was uncharacteristic of us, because we were usually, Lily, she's very chatty, and Jess Hardy, who is always very chatty. Everyone was just silent. And I remember being like, yep, okay, this is we're doing this. And I don't remember walking out. I don't remember diving in. I remember like those last 5 meters being really rough. And I think I just closed my eyes and started praying. Like, dear God, please just let me get to this wall. And then I remember looking and like triple checking, right? Like, does that say 2 next to my name? And I remember hugging David, and then everything else was great. But it was a pretty intense meet, to the point where I think after I like got back to the team area and I had taken a breath and I calmed down, I remember looking up at David and being like, I'm never doing this again. Like, that was so hard. I do not need to come back here in 4 years. I think I'm good. But
it is intense. I remember walking out to the 200 free at my second Olympic trials, and I was the favorite. I was seated first by a lot. But I just, in the ready room, I was overcome with this, I don't know, I just felt terrible. Yeah. I'm just trying to battle all these thoughts, and physically I don't feel right. And we're about to march out, but I just kept battling those thoughts. I was just like, okay, just stay positive, just stay positive. I was praying and positive. And I still don't feel right. We're marching out. And then right when I got up on the blocks, it all went away and I felt fine. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Okay. Then we did okay. Yeah. But it's crazy.
It is
and
crazy.
So I want the listeners to know, any Olympic trial listeners out there, it's normal, totally normal to be a little freaked out. But just as we discipline ourselves physically, we do discipline ourselves mentally, and we come up with strategies and we come up with some self-talk, habits that really do make a difference to calm our hearts and to focus our minds and just get right back in our groove and do what we've been made to do and what we've trained to do. And now you have a great story. I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017, where you stood behind the curtain for a moment.
Yes.
Was that Rio or was that Budapest?
It was Rio.
Okay, so take us to Rio. You're now in Rio. You're in the 100 breast with Lily and Ulia and the relay and I mean, just incredible. Give us some of the highlights and background story of Rio.
So taking it back to Rio, so Yulia Efimova had been caught doping, drug cheating, and she had been suspended, but she got her suspension overturned the night before the Olympics started, so she was allowed to compete. Which and by the way, this was her third or second or third, right? Suspension for the same thing. So not great. And, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I was very prepared that she was going to be at the meet. Like, I knew she'd been suspended, but I also knew she was, sort of doing the appeals process, and there was a possibility it would be overturned. And I think Lily was too, but Lily is very outspoken, and she was, mad about it, as she should be. It's, we compete clean. Everyone should compete clean. And so Lily had started kind of talking and stirring up a little bit of drama. And to her credit, Lily was very much like, I'm going to beat her because she's cheating, and sort of letting her swimming speak. But she was very vocal about it. And, I think that took a lot of courage, and she was young at the time. And I don't know if, I think maybe looking back on it, she'll tell you now some of the things she said, she maybe wish she wouldn't have said, but she did. She sort of just went out and said it and was very blatant about it. And so by the time we got to the final swim, so in the semifinals, I think Yulia had ended up beating Lily's time, and there was some finger. So Yulia moved to number one, and then Lily swam in the second semifinal and beat her. And so she kind of wagged her finger. She was wagging her finger in the ready room. So there was just it was set up to be a good TV moment, right?
Good TV, yeah.
Right. And then, of course, the commentators are taking it. They're like, oh, it's the U.S. versus Russia, and everyone's favorite storyline. So there was a lot of sort of drama behind the scenes. So we get into the ready room for the final, and Lily, it's how she is. She loves to sort of get in people's heads. So she was kind of starting to pick at Yulia in the ready room and trying to get a reaction out of her and sort of saying things to her. And Yulia was kind of has her head down, and Lily was trying to get underneath it to get her to look her in the eye.
Oh my gosh.
So some of the other girls in the ready room are kind of getting in on it, trying to egg her on. And I was just like, what is happening? So I'm about to go swim an Olympic final, which is a dream I've had since I was basically 8 years old. And I'm watching girls fight. What is happening? So I just remember, like you said, we have ways to control our hearts and our minds. And one of those is control your controllables, right? So I couldn't control what Lily was doing or what Yulia was doing, or how, the emotions that either of them had that were kind of spilling out, physically. But I could control what I could see and could hear. And so in the ready room, it's just a normal room, like you would have in a pool, like an office, but they hang these blue curtains. So it looks a little bit nicer on TV, and it looks like we're somewhere nice. Yeah. And I just remember being I cannot watch this, because I don't want to walk out there thinking about Lily and Yulia. I want to walk out there thinking about my race. And so I kind of just parked, I just opened up this curtain and slid behind it and just pulled my chair back there. So I'm sitting between the cement wall and the curtain. So the curtain's on my face, but it just gave me a little bit of peace and a little bit of quiet. And it's what I needed in that moment. And I think you can still see your legs. Exactly. Yes. I've never asked, but I'm sure if someone saw me, they were like, "What is she doing?" And it's so weird because I like don't even remember how I thought of that. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's somewhere I can go to not like see any of this."
Yeah.
And it was fine, but there was one other piece where I was nervous for the Olympic final. I think less nervous, scared than I was at trial. More nervous, excited, sort of feeling like empowered and ready. And you don't get that feeling like you were describing, like the fear that comes over you and sort of rushes through your body, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
But again, it's an Olympic final, and there's an Olympic medal on the line, so there's still some nerves. And I just remember thinking, like, how cool is it that I'm here in this moment? Like, what an incredible experience. And I just, I was really focused on all of the people that helped me get there. Like, just kind of reflecting back on my career and my coaches and my parents. And I was like, I just want to dedicate sort of this one to them. And, the nerves were running. So I was like, I'll just start saying their names out loud, and that will like get me thinking about them, less on me, and like more on the gratitude piece, which has always sort of put me in a better spot. So I start literally saying like mom, dad, like my sister, right? And as many coaches as I could name, as many of my teammates. And so now I'm sitting behind the curtain and talking to myself, which is like the cherry on top of the story. But went out and raced, and it was amazing. And whatever you have to do it.
Yeah. That's your moment. And that was your strategy. And it worked. You go out there and you get the bronze. Was that a best time?
No, it was close. I think it was
close.
A few hundredths. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But don't care about the time when you get a bronze medal. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm a little jealous. I got fourth by 6/100ths. So I'm proud of you. The bronze is amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. Everyone
It's
always
amazing.
wants to talk about the gold relay, and I'm like, the bronze is my.
No, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I got lots of relay medals, but I never got an individual medal. And it's huge. So you were ecstatic. And I love that you and Cody celebrated like you got the gold.
Yeah.
That was I just think those are beautiful moments. And it's cool that you got to share the podium with Lily. And so any other thoughts about that? Just singing the anthem and being up there and doing all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. And I think experiencing it with Lily. So celebrating also like with Lily, just right. A lot of pressure on her to like perform because she's basically been talking it up. So that was a big relief. And I like the hug we had, I think, was equal parts excitement and relief from her being like, oh, thank God, right?
Yeah. The trash talk worked.
The trash talk worked. And then it was a pretty intense, post, you do a press conference and press. And I remember in the press conference, usually the gold medal swimmer sits in the middle. But they had me sit in the middle and between Yulia and Melii because they were nervous.
Just a little space. Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
I love it.
But I mean, obviously being on the podium and so grateful that, we got to hear our anthem and watching those flags raise up. I still get chills. It's just such a, it's so surreal. It's like pretty hard to describe, but awesome. And then I hugged my family after and really, and that was actually the only time I saw my family at the games because by the way, like when they were flying in and out and the village was very far away from everything. So that was like the first time I'd seen my mom or my dad, which was really special.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that you don't get to see your family that much. And it's kind of short and sweet, but boy, it's sweet.
Yeah.
And I love that we had 2 flags for that ceremony. And I love your gratitude strategy, getting ready for that moment. I think that's huge. You know me, I'm a big attitude of gratitude guy. And when we do clinics together, we're both talking it up. That attitude of gratitude is the foundation for so many things. And I love that you shared that. So then you kind of stick around for 2017 for fun, hold off law school or actually, you trained one more year.
One more full year. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your pleasant surprise, you got a little faster. And Budapest is a great pool, great town, great world champs. And you end with a lifetime best time and some more medals.
Yeah. I mean, so again, got home from the Olympics, was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. Took took the LSAT and applied to law school, but obviously still, you still have time before that process begins. And so I was like, I guess I'll swim one more year fully. Like I thought Rio was going to be my last meet. And so just kind of kept showing up to the pool and I did a lot of the World Cups in 2016, which was a blast, and like traveled a lot of places and raced a ton, and just did the thing, and it was awesome. So I stayed in, and I love Worlds. Like I it's hard to say because the Olympics are special, but I think 2017 Worlds was my favorite meet ever. And lifetime best times in every event. I mean, even the 200 breast, which I didn't make the Worlds team in, but best time in the 200 breaststroke at 26 years old was like pretty cool for me. And best time in the 100 by a lot, and ended up getting silver and beating Yulia that year, which was a very, very cool moment for Lily and I. And kind of just a magical, end swan song, if you will, to this career. So Budapest was very special, and everybody swam. A lot of the Rio team was in Budapest. It was a lot of overlap, and everybody was just kind of lights out. And it kind of goes to show, like, when you take a little bit of that pressure off, right? I think people, and everyone came home from Rio and just took a breath and geared back up again, and it was awesome.
Yeah, because you have that big base of training from Rio, but a little less pressure, so you can kind of breathe and move better. And that happens a lot. You take that big base and then have a little more relaxed environment, fun environment like Budapest does. I love that you had this great progression in your career. I love that you kind of were patient and trusted the process. And then you end with this incredible last 2 years of, 23 years, 2015, 2016, 2017, with some beautiful things. And I just think that's wonderful. I just think that's so cool how you were patient and persevered and finished on a great note. Because nobody has a perfect linear progression. Right. I mean, there is a lot of hills and valleys, but you had a nice hilltop to end on, which is pretty cool. And I love that you had the balance of academics the whole time, knowing that you wanted to go to law school, knowing that you were, always developing yourself mentally, academically, and being disciplined that way. And how'd you decide on Georgetown?
Basically, I got in. I was like, okay, I'm moving.
Yeah.
A little bit of, I when I started thinking about what I wanted to do in my legal career, I was with a large desire to go into government, and that since has shifted a little bit with the experiences I've had. But I was very excited about being in law school in DC and sort of at the seat of our federal government. And it was really cool. There's just a lot here. There's a lot going on here. Mm-hmm. And so it was a great learning experience, but I just kind of was like, okay, this is my next adventure. And my dad's a lawyer, so I kind of like have a little bit of knowledge, but I had no idea what it meant to be a lawyer when I showed up at law school. So it's been a big learning curve, but I've loved every moment of it. And it's been awesome. And I was able to continue. I mean, I swam for 2 more years. So I ended up swimming my first 2 years of law school, and I didn't compete a lot, but I still was able to go to short course worlds and Pan Pacs. And I say those are like my 2 bonus years of swimming, because I was able to make it work. And I just, I liked what you said about being patient, and that my sort of trajectory looked a little different than most people. And I love telling young swimmers, like, there is no right way or one way to do this. If, there's lots of paths to success, and sometimes it takes some patience, and sometimes it doesn't come when you want it to. But if you're not like the world's best swimmer at age 14, it certainly doesn't mean, you can't be the world's best swimmer at age 26. And I also think about Ashley Twitchell, who has just made her first Olympics at age 30, and just continues to come back and get more. So and I think it's becoming more and more prevalent, especially with ISL. You're seeing people stay in the sport longer and continue to improve, which is so exciting. And I love that. But I think a lot of times young swimmers look at it and they're like, okay, if I'm not, going to XYZ meet at XYZ age, like, my career is limited. And it's just totally not true. There's so much opportunity. And there's a lot of fun and different and interesting ways to go about doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and we got to do some clinics together in, I guess, one of the last ones. I think it was
I was
February
thinking
of
about
20.
that. Yeah, it was
We were one of the
February.
last clinics, and then before the shutdown of March of 20. And so, yeah, we were out in Georgia, out in the middle of Georgia somewhere. And it was a great clinic. And you do such a good job with the kids demonstrating all the 4 strokes, especially breaststroke. And we closed the meet. We closed the clinic with an epic race between you and me
Yes.
in a 50 breast. And I thought I was going to get you because I have good pull downs. And I beat you on the pull down. And then you came a fishing. You were reeling me in and you beat me like a drum. And I'm still mad about it. 15 months later. So I've been training now, getting ready for our rematch at the next clinic. So
I might need to wear fins. Or I need like a 10-second head start. I'm very nervous about our rematch. I think you might. I think your training will.
Well, no, I love that the kids got to race you and that I got to race you. And I love that you're how you raced well for USA. And I can't wait to see how you're able to give back as a lawyer now and, with legal advice. And swimming, give us a little synopsis of how you've been helping out USA Swimming the last couple of years and for the future.
Yeah, so I was elected. So on the board, USA Swimming has right now 3 athlete representatives that are elected by other athletes. And so I was elected to the board in 2020, so last year. And now I'm serving on the board, which has been an amazing experience because I've seen the sport from the other side, which is the dry side, right? The business side or the operation side. And what's been really exciting is that the US OPC and Congress have actually mandated that more athlete representatives become involved in decision-making processes. And it came out of, unfortunately, the situation with USA Gymnastics and Larry Nassar. So after all of that happened, Congress put together a commission to look into it. And, their takeaway was that we need more athletes involved in the process every step of the way, because we think that our athletes, are best able to hold the organization accountable. Because unfortunately, what happened in gymnastics was that a lot of people knew about it and sort of didn't do anything. So came out of a bad situation, but I think it's a great thing for the sport. And, Josh, you and I were talking about it's cool and it's great. And I think that most athletes, and Josh, obviously you've spent your life giving back to the sport in different ways, but we all, again, gratitude, feel very grateful for, I think, what the sport has given us. And it's important to sort of keep it going along and marshal it along into the future. And so I'm excited about the changes. So there's going to be a lot of sort of changes in USA Swimming's governance structure, which sounds very boring. And if anybody's curious, I'm happy to go into further detail. But the general theme is that there will be much more athlete representation and voice. And that's exciting and important. So hopefully I can help bridge those gaps and get people plugged in where they need to be for the sport. That's
great. Well, I'm glad they have good people like you helping out like that. And we have so many good people in our sport. Just, after doing this podcast this year and interviewing all these amazing people, I'm like, our sport is really special.
It is. And it's really special.
And we do need to do our part to keep it that way. And so I appreciate you. But I can't wait to see you at a clinic someday again soon, a pool soon. And thank you for sharing us with your stories, and keep up the great work. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Josh. It's always a pleasure.
Katie.
Yeah, thank you. I always appreciate talking to you, and it's good to see you. And I hope to see you in person soon.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my favorite swim cap, the Hammerhead swim cap. It's the safest, fastest, longest lasting, most comfortable swim cap in the world. Its one-of-a-kind patented honeycomb shock-absorbing technology will prevent concussions. And the Hammerhead cap has no wrinkles to ensure top speed with the least resistance. And it's super comfortable. That's easy to get on and easy to get off, and it will never tear. This is the last cap you will ever need to buy. Safety
and speed, all at hammerheadswimcaps.com.
Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an Ultimate Swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your Ultimate Swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal, to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an Ultimate Swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.